What bothers me with these experts, Dan, is that they've pointed to unemployment rate, which it's the worst. The U3 number is the worst gauge in my mind, because when people leave the labor force, the unemployment rate gets better. Theoretically, if 4.5 million people left the labor force, we'd have zero unemployment.
Well, that's exactly right, Charles. I mean, the numbers are completely misleading, because once somebody gives up and they're not looking for a job, well, they don't count anymore. How could they not count? So I agree with you. That number is completely misleading, and what we really need to look at is what these large employers are doing, whether it's Walmart or Amazon. What direction are they going in?
Right.
They're not hiring anymore, Charles. So that is a clear indication to me when you have Walmart and Amazon going in the opposite direction. There could not be a clearer sign of recession than that. And we could argue about the definition of recession.
Sure.
Forget that.
Yeah.
Those are the indicators we should be looking at.
We learned last week Amazon has 180,000 fewer workers than they had at the beginning of the year. Dan, let me switch gears for a moment. President Joe Biden today meeting with some big-time CEOs and business leaders about this spending bill. But maybe he's talking to the wrong people, right? Small businesses are the ones who are going to get caught with these big tax hikes and the slower economy, right?
Well, they always do. Charles, right off the bat, small business makes up 50% of businesses in the United States. So how could you be possibly talking about, these tax increases and what you're going to do with the economy and leave small business out? Remember this, large corporations are never, ever absorbing these tax hikes, even if they go through. They're passing them along to the consumers because they have the responsibility to maintain that bottom line. We're in an inflationary period. They're going to push it across, Charles, and ultimately all of us end up paying this tax. This whole thing of the rich or corporations are going to carry this through, that is absolute nonsense.
Hey, I got 30 seconds. The Fed really laying it on thick lately, particularly non-voting members. Yesterday, Mary Daly made a comment about having enough and that most Americans have enough. So it's okay if they crush this economy. What do you make of that kind of thinking? These are people who do have the power to disrupt our lives and to make them miserable.
Well, I think these non-voting members are out there, Charles, testing the water and maybe even being sacrificial lambs, right? Let's test to see what kind of reaction that we get. So I don't know if I would put too much weight into what they're saying. I really think it's somewhat of a ploy to take the temperature of the economy out there.
Well, what about their fight, though, with inflation? Right now, it doesn't seem that they're winning it. And yet Wall Street is going back to last Wednesday when Jay Powell said they were at neutral. In other words, you got the chairman of the Federal Reserve sort of more sanguine than the rest of the members. And maybe inflation is coming down, but is it coming down fast enough? And will it come down so fast we regret it?
Absolutely not. Inflation is not coming down, Charles, and I'll give you the simple reason why. Bad policies are what put us here, and unless those policies, specifically energy policies, start to reverse, I don't anticipate that we're going to see any movement related to bringing down inflation right now.
A lot of debate over the CBO bill on the spending plan. It says over 10 years it will reduce $100 billion, but over the first 4, increase by $22 billion. Listen, a lot of folks who've been around Washington and Wall Street know you can game that CBO, particularly in the out years. Should we be concerned that early on this kind of spending is going to add to inflation?
Well, of course it is. I mean, look, where everyone in Washington is missing the boat, or at least some key people here, is we don't have a demand problem. We have a supply problem. So if you really want to attack inflation, you got to look to the supply side. And everything that the administration is proposing is geared towards demand. So until we start to address how are we going to fix these supply chains, how are we going to lower energy costs, Charles, we're not going to be changing direction. We're going one way.
Well, the good news is OPEC Plus did say they would increase production by 100,000. So, you know, the first step in a million-mile trip begins with that first tiny, tiny step. Dan, thank you very much.